When my dad passed away, we were so broke, all I inherited were good examples. I heard you have an estate. Do something smart with it.
I once said RSJ was someone who Tariq St. Patrick may look up to, and after the land of opportunity, I think that's come to fruition. RSJ was someone who grew up broke after his father passed away, and all he inherited was good examples. But just look at how much he's accomplished. He's one of the richest men in America, even though he was at the back of this line when he was a kid. As Ghost once said to Tariq in Power, he has all the advantages he never had.
I know what she got you doing, son. That's the best you can do. With all the intelligence, Tariq, all the advantages I f***ing never had, that's the best you can do.
Now this is the land of opportunity for Tariq St. Patrick. Look at where he stood in this classroom compared to someone like Effie. Everybody has their own circumstances and grow up with different values, and they inherit certain traits, or in Tariq's case, an estate. Ghost said to him that he has all the advantages he never had as a kid, and that puts you at an advantage. It doesn't mean that your achievements are any less if you're at the front of the queue, but you certainly did have a head start in life. Now what it means for people at the back, just like Brushandre said, even though they're all in the same classroom, it doesn't mean they're all equal. Some of them have to work twice as hard to get to the same position as somebody else. And that's something I think we can all relate to, but more on the land of opportunity as we run through this breakdown, especially RSJ and Tariq's relationship, because he did hint at the Italian investment, and someone who speaks good Italian is Tariq St. Patrick, who's finally got himself a ride. Now, episode 4 started with the sales of No Cap, All Frap on their way up, and as we see Tariq and the rest of the crew, everybody seems to have everything in lock in terms of their infrastructure. Tariq and Braden are moving the weight in Wall Street, Kane and the Tejadas are taking care of the streets, Effie is doing her own thing at Stansfield, but also overlooking the operation at their base, as she sets Tiny straight after he was accidentally messing up orders. But with business booming, just like in season 1 where Tariq overlooked the empire he was creating at Stansfield with Course Correct, we saw him standing over his empire he's built with Effie and Tariq in Wall Street, also very reminiscent to the way Ghost used to stand over Club Truth. Now we are going to come back to business in just a moment, but we catch up with the Tejadas at Zeke's graffiti, and I think this was the biggest talking point from episode 4, the events that led to Detective Whitman's death. Now Lorenzo may have pulled the trigger on Zeke, but one thing episode 4 proved was that he will always look out and do what's best for his family. In season 2, he made it clear that he should be the one protecting them, and he starts by showing Monet a graffiti of Zeke. Diana was a little late, not that Monet cares at this moment in time anyway, but in comes Detective Whitman, harassing Monet yet again. He told Monet that when she slips up, he's gonna be there, but that's not all. Whitman said that he's got footage of Monet going up to the building the night of Dante Spears' murder, but if he's coming after Monet, that means he's coming after all of them. Whitman's been going after Monet for weeks, which was actually news for the rest of them because Monet's been trying to deal with this with Davis. So although they know they need to work together as a family, Diana was brushed aside. But in this family meeting, notice what Monet said about Evelyn and the Castillos.
Evelyn think we clipped Uncle Frank. We don't know what she's feeding her sons. We can't trust them.
Ma, they don't know anything. They would have retaliated.
What if they just trying to get close enough to prove it before they make a move?
Evelyn thinks that they clipped Uncle Frank, and we know that to be a fact, but they don't know what she's feeding her sons. It also goes back to how Evelyn dropped a little hint that her sons have a foothold in Brooklyn. Could she have dropped this hint on purpose? Could she have wanted to work with the Tejadas? And could Gordo actually be running game on Drew? Just something to think about. So Monet wants them to shut down their operation, but Kane says no, and Lorenzo definitely backs him, which raises question with Drew for the second time, and even Monet looked at this thinking, what the fuck was all that about? Now with Diana, we catch up with her at Stansfield where she wrote Independence on her card, and she doesn't want to move the weight that Lorenzo's asking her to move. She wants to make her own choices and make her own decisions, but one thing we have to agree with is that they're all in this together. Diana's picture was the first one that Obi pointed at, and so whether she likes it or not, she's in the game. Now Monet knows that she needs to do something about Whitman, and Davis's plan is to give him an alibi to throw him off, but that's not good enough. She needs to use Diana because if Whitman was watching her, then she probably knows about their drama, and he was right. But that's not all. Monet paid it to raid Whitman's house and find everything he has, but what that did was reveal some game-changing information which I'm going to come back around to at the end. One thing that's not been great is the relationship between Diana and Monet, and that's because Monet blames her for Zeke's death, and it wasn't exactly a heart-to-heart, but in episode 4 we did see Monet and Diana somewhat clearing the air, and later on the same goes with Kane and Lorenzo, and it also does go back to the point, family first. Now what Monet was asking Diana was to send Whitman to the Tejadas so she could catch him and call the police, but Monet doesn't tell Diana the full plan, very similar to how she never told Kane the full plan in season 2's finale. But Salim definitely puts a seed of doubt into her mind, as well as because he brings her the independence card, and questions her about spending time with Kane and Lorenzo, and Salim just won't stop asking questions. Another reason why I don't trust Salim is how did Jenny get this photo of Tariq St. Patrick and Effie at Stansfield? Surely someone at Stansfield has to be close enough to get these photos, so the question is, Could Salim be Jenny's guy? So just taking a break on this Tejada storyline, Monet knows that she has the cops on them, with Jenny being one of them, but Jenny has Cooper Sachs as her CI. Now he shows her the picture of Davis, Monet, and Tariq St. Patrick all in one room. Now Jenny wants to charge Davis for the murder that Theo took the fall for, but after all these years that case is no slam dunk. Now when Jenny took a call from Blanca, her other phone rang, and that was Lauren, and Sachs has the number, so just keep that in mind. Now when Sachs brought it up later on, Jenny didn't want him getting the wrong idea, so he introduced him to a partner, Blanca Rodriguez, and what a happy reunion this was. We all know these two go way back, and they definitely have trust issues, which might cause a problem or two in this case. But one thing they definitely do have in common is they're fighting for the same cause. But that's not all. Jenny's phone pinged while they were at this meeting, and I do wonder if Sachs picked up on that. Now with Lauren, she's in hell with no Wi-Fi, no contact to the outside world, and she has no contact to her parents or friends, and that is until Jenny solves this case. But that could take months, who knows, and I don't think Lauren can take it that much longer. But Jenny puts it into perspective and shows her the pictures of those in question. And again, that picture of Effie and Tariq, where did she get it from? Lauren actually also did give us some key piece of information in this conversation. She told her that she saw Diana on the roof at Stansfield, which dates back to early season 2. Now not only is Jenny acting on this tip that Lauren gave her, in the official trailer we saw Effie looking at a camera, which may be placed there by Jenny. Now this is something we're yet to see, but just something to connect the dots with that may impact Effie and her side hustle. Now back to the Tejadas. After Diana's meeting with Monet and Salim trying to get in her ear about separating herself from her family, we see her doing what needs to be done, feeding Detective Whitman bogus information. This also goes back to Monet mentoring and nurturing Diana. Whitman may not listen to Monet, but they knew he'd listen to Diana, especially because of their fractured relationship. And one thing I do think we all need to acknowledge, Diana is a very good damn liar. Another was in season 2 when she put the waterworks on to get Tariq's QR code. But with the information that Diana gave to Whitman, he put his hood up and went to the Tejada house to find the books, and pointing a laser at the camera, he got in from around the back, using the key under the mat which Diana said that would be there. But here's where we saw the Uno reverse, which I thought was coming. Diana was there to call 911, and she said someone just broke into their house, but something that she wasn't expecting was being an accomplice to murder. But now she has no choice, and the next step was to make it look like he came in, and Monet got into a tussle and it was self-defense. But they also had to make it real, and Diana said say less. Now this plan was certainly risky, and I do agree with Davis, it could land her in some deep shit. Now I think one thing we have to agree on, Monet is sick of everybody's shit, and she ain't playing games this season. But Detective Whitman was known to be harassing her, and it does look okay for now. But the file that Davis handed her gives us something to think about. Lorenzo Tejada's partial prints were found at the scene of the crime, and what was said on this report was partial prints were found at the scene of the crime on April 18th, 2021, and it was an 89% match likelihood to Lorenzo Tejada, but the prints were actually inconclusive. But all hell is about to break loose, and this secret is about to be blown wide open, and based on episode 4, I do think Lorenzo's time is almost up, but let's talk about business. Now before they go into this meeting with Obi, Kane has words with Effie about how he knows he got the job done with Lauren, and Effie says she did what she had to do to protect them all. Although Kane definitely loves playing with his secret, and you can tell. He wants Effie to confess, and even though that does change later, Kane knows that this information spells danger, because one of Kane's traits is unpredictability. You never know what his next move is, and Effie definitely made Braden know. Now when it comes to their organization, they may have met Noma's drug quota, but something they definitely weren't ready for was this. Mecca used to move guns as well as weight, and they wanted to replace Mecca, so now they have to move these guns. But Tariq pushes back, says they're drug dealers and they don't move guns, although that's not Obi's problem. This is where it goes back to human capital. Everybody's good at playing their role. Kane says they need to take care of Wall Street, and they'd move the guns. Now on Effie's card was written freedom, and on Tariq's card was written family, but one thing both of them need to achieve that is money. Effie's way is the game, and Tariq is his trust, but he's also in the game himself.
When I'm out, it's new beginnings for me. I'm sick and tired of looking over my shoulder all the time and justifying committing felonies just to get paid.
Now, something they made clear in episode 4 was how Effie comes from nothing. She hasn't grown up with a privileged circumstance or had the advantages of those who stand in front of her, but she's someone who's definitely determined to get her safety number, enough to pay for grad school and enough to come out the game. Now, what would be a dream is if Tariq was by her side in Cali with her, but we all know it's never as simple. With moving guns, Drew sets up a risky deal with the help of Gordo, who tells him that his brothers didn't have respect for him either until he earned it, and that's something Drew wanted, which is why he wanted to be the leader of this exchange. But they were racist and they needed someone to connect with them, and we all know who Kane had in mind. Now Lorenzo and Kane's relationship is different this season, and that's because of the Zeke secret, and Lorenzo made it clear, he's always been the one to lead and protect this family. but Kane pushed back and put his father back in line, although Kane definitely did get humbling after the gun exchange turned left. Now on this gun deal, Blanca Rodriguez made a point of how she got a tip from a CI about the gun deal who was embedded into the other organization who was receiving the guns, and so Braden being snapped will be a big problem. They followed Braden, which took them to Kane and Lorenzo's motel room, which Lorenzo said they needed to move now, but Kane wanted to count the cash, but that led to a fierce shootout where they had to drop 3 bodies, and where Lorenzo had to move Kane out the way. Not only did Lorenzo save Kane, he also called Drew as backup, which kind of just proves Lorenzo's point, Kane is just not ready to lead at this moment in time. Before the season, Woody McClain, who plays Kane, said that at some point Kane will definitely have a humbling moment, and I think this was it. He knows that all Lorenzo's ever wanted was to protect his family, and they had a real moment, which is another reason why I think it's almost time for Lorenzo. But this was also a reason why Kane texted Effie telling her that her secret is safe. But is it? That information is definitely danger, which Cooper Sachs may also find out first. Now I go back to my point, or rather the point that Monet made. The Castillos definitely can't be trusted, so is Gordo running game on Drew? And could this be a humbling moment for Drew Tejada? We all know he's distracted and trying to get over Ev, but this is something that puts the Tejadas in deep shit, and I think he's gonna realize he needs to let go of this life and the game is his destiny. Now the following morning, guess what we have? Another Valdez on the scene. This was Paz Valdez's son Junior, and he's following the family footprints, something that I'm sure his mother is proud of, but also wary of because she knows where he landed her sister, Angela Valdez. But it really does give us a connection to Angela by having another Valdez in law enforcement. So from an audience perspective, this was definitely good to see, but maybe bad news for Tariq St. Patrick and the rest of the crew. Now I'm going to finish on Tariq and RSJ's relationship. This deal between RSJ and Lucas didn't go as planned, and Lucas told Tariq turn this deal around or he can say goodbye to his internship. Now the way Tariq did this was by offering the QCP building to RSJ, but that was after his conversation with Rashad Tate. He's the one who made him aware if RSJ is giving him the time of day, it's because he's got something he wants. He also mentioned he was having a meeting with Blanca Rodriguez and she's investigating Dante Spears, something that Tariq may want to keep his head on a swivel for. Now, Tariq was able to broker a deal with RSJ, who is someone who wanted to start construction on a new shopping mall in Queens, but there's a building block in that project, the QCP building that Ghost left Tariq. Now the building is lacking structural integrity, and if someone makes a generous offer, it can actually be taken out of the trust, and Tariq believes in Western Holdings, so he's happy to move it, which Daniel seems to have agreed to, because not only would it land RSJ what he wants, he'd also have a bigger pot of money waiting for him when he graduates. But that's not all. The Italian investment opportunity that RSJ spoke about, I think Tariq St. Patrick is about to come in use again, and we may see him taking a trip to Italy. But that's it for this recap, an episode which says goodbye to Detective Whitman. But are there other secrets at play? For example, who's taking these photos? And is it almost time for Lorenzo based on his fingerprints and his heart-to-heart with Kane? Drop all your thoughts down below on all things Season 3, Episode 4. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.